Okay, here we go. This is an update on the C10 differential rebuild. We didn't show you taking it apart, and we didn't show you taking it out. Pretty easy to take out. You've got, well, if you look over here, these two pads right here sit on top of this, where your spring is right there. U-bolts go through there and hold that in. There's a track bar laying right there on the floor. That comes off. You take the drive line loose, and then you come over here and you take this brake line loose right there at T-fitting. I had to do it up in the frame. That is really stuck bad. Okay, so anyway, we had a 373 gear in here, and you can tell on this stuff by the numbers that are on here. If you can see, it says, you can't see it. There we go. It says 4111 or 1141 right there. And you take 41 and divide it by 11, and you get 373. This was a posi unit. You can see the springs here. That means that behind these side gears there's some clutch discs and some steels. This is a C-clip axle rear end. These C-clips right here are what hold your axles in. The ends of your axles have this little clip here. And you slide the axle in. You take this, okay, there's a center pin that goes in here, right there. That center pin, hard to see, but there's a gear down in there, and one here on this end. Center pin goes through those, and there's a long bolt that you'll see on one end that retains the center pin. There's a hole in the pin that it goes through right there, and the bolt would go right here at the top. So that's basically how you would take your axles out. And then you take off your caps, and you got to kind of pry that out because there's shims under these caps. Don't mix your caps up. I made little scribe marks on the cap so I can't get them mixed up. Now that's from the factory. We go back together, we're probably going to end up putting some shims in here. That's a 4 series carrier. They got 3 series carriers. So that one will go down to 373. You can go as tall as a 373 gear. He wants to put a taller gear in here so that he's spinning less RPMs at 60 miles an hour. So we're going to go to a 308 gear. He seems to think that his, oh yuck. He seems to think that that the first and second gear will still pull the truck when he starts off. So, you know, he's the driver. If it gets him what he wants, that's the main thing. Brakes look pretty good. A lot of meat left on the brakes when we're looking at that. I am going to replace the axle seals, get everything cleaned up. Stuff is pretty dirty. And I'm going to have to reflare one of the brake lines. So all the parts are on order. And I'll get back with you when parts come in. We start doing some kind of a setup on this thing. Okay, setting up the C10 12 bolt. The first thing you have to do when you have to set up the rear end is you need to set the pinion depth. Usually on the end of a pinion, you'll see these numbers, and if you see that 2.751, that's the depth of the pinion, how it was set up when they ran the gears in at the factory. What I do is I take an old bearing off of the old pinion, and I take a flapper wheel and I clean the inside of this up enough, just enough to where it will slide off and on. Then I add some shims, however many I think I need to get started. Okay, so then we take the pinion and we stick it down inside the housing. You want to make sure your pinion's not rocking. I don't even put the other end on. Got the shims on there. This thing's straight. Then I take a pinion depth gauge. This is a pinion depth gauge. This has a 3 inches extended, the end of that right there. And you're going to measure from your center line down to your pinion. The center of this is going to be this surface right here, will be the center of this hole, which will be the center of the carrier when we put the carrier in. So this is set on 0. And I come down here and I'm going to count how many times this turns. 1, 2, and you can't see it very well. And then I put pressure right here just so that I know that I'm flat. And this is 248. It went around 2 times, so there's 200 thousandths, and then it went up to 48. Okay, so we take I had a 3-inch extension on there. It was 3 inches was the dial indicator end hanging out. So I take 3 inches, and then I got 248.248 when I measured the depth. So minus 0.248, and that gives us 2.752. This was set up at 2.751. Can't get any closer than that. So we've got the pinion depth set. Now I will install the bearings, the new bearings. Okay, so I've taken that bearing and put it in the oven, cooking her at about 250 degrees for a little while, just to get it to expand a little bit, make it easier to put onto the shaft. And now we're going to install the ring gear. I've already cleaned the ring gear. Comes with some kind of a coating on it. Use some brake clean, cleaned it off. You want to make sure that your surfaces on this carrier, this gear carrier, and the gear are both clean in here, and the threads in here. This is pretty important to get this right. Then I set this on top, and I align it. I tried it. You have to get it aligned. So I use this alignment tool here, stick it up inside one of these holes, kind of spun the gear around until I could find a bolt hole, and then I know it's pretty aligned. Then I put a bolt in right here on this side, and I came around the other side and put another one right here, so I have one on each side. So now I will start all the bolts just with my fingers first, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now I've got all the bolts. I flipped this over in the vise. All these are started by hand. They screw in real nice. You don't want to gall these threads on the side of this here, so you want to make sure these all spin nice in there, and now you know it's aligned good. And now we'll kind of sucker up, and I'll go kind of around in a pattern and draw this up in there, try to do it evenly. Okay, I used 4 bolts to draw this up, and I held the ratchet close in like this, you can't get any torque on it. You don't want to get this thing egg-shaped. You want to make sure you draw it up, evenly around. So I did like two, like that twice. Then I came over here, did it twice again, twice again, twice again. Just did that until we got to where the gear is actually set up there tight. So now I'll go screw the rest of these in, and we'll torque them to spec, and we should be good to go. Okay, once I got all the ring gear bolts in, I made sure that they all weren't galling going in. Everything's aligned nice. Took them back out. Put a little bit of blue Loctite on there, not red. And now I'm going to torque them to 40, and then we're going to go to 55 is where we're going to end up. Okay, all these bolts are all torqued down nice and evenly to 55 foot-pounds with a little bit of blue Loctite on it. Now I'm going to press the bearings on this gear carrier, and this will be ready to go in and set the backlash. Probably ready to get that pinion bearing out of the oven right now and put it on this pinion. Don't know if this bearing got hot enough, but we're gonna see. Nope. Okay, off to the press. Okay, now I've got the bearing on here that I ground out that slides on and off to help push this on, this piece of pipe. And we'll see how this goes. Sorry about the shaky. Okay, it's down. We're there. Okay, after installing the bearings, the bearing on here, stuck it back in here, checked the pinion depth again. Let's see what we can do here. 1, 2. Hold on. It's about 252, 252. 3 minus 252 is, can't see that very well. Anyway, it's 2.748, 2.751. We're close enough.